Hello and welcome to Written Words and today's video, which is called Pesky Apostrophes and Where to Put Them. Apostrophes, like many of the tiny things in life, can be quite irritating and problematic. They are problematic for people who don't know how to use them and where to put them, because it can be confusing to know what to do. And they can also be irritating to people who do know how to use them and see them used wrongly. When I was little and at primary school and hadn't quite got my head round the idea of apostrophes yet, if I couldn't decide where to put the apostrophe before or after the letter, I used to write it just hanging directly above the letter and hope that the teacher wouldn't notice. The greengrocer's apostrophe is a common phenomenon around the English-speaking world. Typically, items of fruit and veg on a market stall might be labelled with handwritten labels on pieces of card or blackboards, and very often they are sprinkled willy-nilly with apostrophes in all kinds of places. So my intention in this video is to clear up some of the confusion around apostrophes, when we should use them and how we should use them, and also when we shouldn't use them. So let's start first of all with when we shouldn't use them. If you think of that greengrocer's market stall, any market stall holder wanting to make money from selling fruit and veg will have more than one of each item on their stall. So they'll have not just one lettuce, but many lettuces, cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, apples, potatoes, and so on. So the signs that they put on their stall will use the plural. Plural simply means more than one of something. One lettuce, but two lettuces. One carrot, but 100 carrots. One potato, but 3 bags of potatoes. And the way we make words plural in English is usually just to add an S. 1 lettuce, 2 lettuces. And in this case, there is no need for an apostrophe. We know by adding an S that there is more than one lettuce. So we don't need the apostrophe to give us any more information. It's already there. Lettuces, cucumbers, apples, oranges. We've just added an S and we know there's more than one. So the greengrocer doesn't need any apostrophes on their labels at all. Now moving to the first way that we do use apostrophes, and that is to show when something is missing. In English, especially in spoken English, we like to use something called contractions. We like to squish 2 words together into one to make it quicker and easier to say. So for example, we might change do not into don't, because it's quicker and it's easier to say. So if we want to write that down, we take out the O of not, but we need to use the apostrophe to show that we've done that. The apostrophe just shows that that O is missing. So we squish the 2 words together, take out one of the O's, and just add in a little apostrophe to show there's something missing. So we go from do not to don't. Another example might be we've, which is short for we have. It's shorter, it's quicker, it's easier to say. We take off the H and the A from have, we squash the 2 words together, but we just add a little apostrophe in there to let everybody know that we've missed something out, to let everybody know that this is really we have. Another example of this, which we will come back to in a few moments, is it's. In this case, it's is short for it is. It's a beautiful day today. And we've taken out the I of the is and squashed the 2 together to make them shorter. So we put the apostrophe in where the I is missing, just to let people know that this really means it is. The other use of apostrophes is for something called possessives. Possessive sounds like possession, and that's what it's used for. It's used to indicate some kind of belonging or ownership. And in English, the way we do that is to add an apostrophe. So if we think of Peter, Peter has a bike. So if we want to talk about the bike belonging to Peter, that's a bit of a mouthful. We could say the bike of Peter, but that doesn't sound very nice either. So we shorten it. We love shortening things in English. We shorten it to Peter's bike. We add an S to show belonging. But what we don't want to do is confuse people into thinking, there's an S on the end of Peter. Does that mean there's more than one Peter? So we put an apostrophe between Peter and the S to show this S is indicating belonging. You could also use it for London's skyline. It's the skyline of London, or the skyline belonging to London. But London's skyline is much more succinct and easy to say. So we use London, we add an S, but we put an apostrophe between London and the S to show that this S is indicating possession. If your car breaks down, you might go to a mechanic and say, the car's engine is broken. The engine belongs to the car. It's the engine of the car. So we add an S, but there's only one car. We don't want to cause confusion and make people think that there are two cars. So we add an apostrophe between car and the S to show that this S is indicating possession. So as a general rule, if you could rephrase the sentence using of or belonging to, the engine belonging to the car, the skyline of London, the bike belonging to Peter, then we use apostrophe S to indicate possession. But then what happens if you do want to talk about something plural? If something belongs to more than one person or thing, then what do we do? Because then we have an S already. And in this case, what we do is we change the position of the apostrophe. If you're standing outside and there are some birds in the tree and they are singing beautifully, you might say the birds singing was beautiful, because there are lots of birds in the tree. So because the birds in the tree already have an S because they're plural, we don't want to add another S to indicate possession, because that's a bit messy to have two S's. So we just change the position of the apostrophe and we put it after the S. So the birds singing was beautiful. Now compare these two sentences. If I tell you the birds singing was beautiful, how many birds are there? You can't tell from the way I say it, but you can tell from the way I write it. If the apostrophe is before the S, there is one bird. If the apostrophe is after the S, there is more than one bird, because after the S is in the plural position. So in this sentence, the boys' outfits matched. We have more than one boy. And the outfits belong to the boys. There's more than one boy. So we put the apostrophe at the end. The dog's tails wagged. We have more than one dog here. So again, the apostrophe goes after the S. However, as always in English, there are a very few exceptions to this. There are some plurals in English that we don't form using an S. For example, one child, two children. There is no S in children, but it is plural. So how do we form the possessive? If something belonged to the children, I listened to the children's stories. They were the stories of the children. They were the stories belonging to the children. So how do I indicate that? Well, because we don't already have an S in this plural, we can just add one. And we put the apostrophe between children and the S to indicate that this is used as possession. The same is true for a word like people. We have one person, but we have several people. So again, there is no S already. So if we want to say something belongs to the people, it was the people's choice, for example, then we add an S and we put the apostrophe between the people and the S. So those are the basic rules, but there are a couple of areas where things get a little bit grey and confusing. And one of these often occurs with names. If you think of the names Thomas, James, Charles, Achilles, Moses, Dickens, Jesus, all those names end in S, but they are all referring to one person. They are singular. It's one person's name. So how do we talk about things that belong to somebody whose name ends in S? The answer is that there are two ways. You can choose which you prefer in this case. You can either just add an apostrophe on the end after the existing S, or you can add an extra S and put an apostrophe between the two. If you use a style guide, different style guides may favour different approaches to this problem, as it's really just a matter of preference. Personally, I tend to prefer the first one, the neater, shorter version, where you don't add an extra S, you just add an apostrophe after the existing S. But people who prefer to add the extra S argue that it's more in keeping with the way we say the words. So if we talk about Jesus's teachings, when we say that, we're adding an S. Jesus is. If we talk about Dickens's books, we've added an S in the way we say it, Dickens's. You can choose either way to do those, but the important thing is, of course, to be consistent. If you've decided which one you prefer, stick to that one, don't chop and change between the two. And then the other area that causes a lot of confusion for a lot of people is one I've already mentioned, which is its. I've already said that its, I-T apostrophe S, is short for it is, because the apostrophe indicates that the I is missing. But what do we do if we want to talk about something belonging to it? The dog wagged its tail. How do we do that? If we put IT apostrophe S, what we're really writing is the dog wagged its tail, which is nonsense. So this is the one exception where we have a possessive that does not use an apostrophe. So if we want to say the dog wagged its tail, there is no apostrophe in its, because that's the one exception where we don't use it, because otherwise it would cause confusion. So now for a little quiz to see how much of that you can remember. I'm going to show you some lines from some classic books, but I've taken out the apostrophes. Can you work out where the apostrophes should be? The first one is the opening few lines of Little Women. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Joe, lying on the rug. It's so dreadful to be poor, sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all, added little Amy with an injured sniff. We've got father and mother and each other, said Beth contentedly from her corner. Could you spot where the apostrophes were missing? Let's have a look. First of all, Christmas won't be Christmas. There should be an apostrophe in won't between the N and the T. It's an old-fashioned version of will not, and the O of the not is missing, so the apostrophe is there to show us. Then Meg uses its, and in this case she means it is. It is so dreadful to be poor. So because there is an I missing from is, we have an apostrophe. Then Amy says, I don't think it's fair. She needs two apostrophes here because she's got don't, meaning do not, and there's something missing, the O from not. And she's got its, again, meaning it is, and the I is missing, so we have an apostrophe to show that. And then Beth says we've, meaning we have. So the H and the A of have are missing, so we need an apostrophe in there. If I were to summarise the story of Little Women, I might say something like this. Little Women gives us a glimpse into the sisters' lives. We follow Meg, Jo, Beth and Amy as the girls' characters unfold and develop. Where do we need apostrophes there? We need an apostrophe after sisters because we're talking about their lives, the lives belonging to the sisters, the lives of the sisters. And because there are 4 sisters, this is plural, so the apostrophe needs to be after the final S. And then we need another apostrophe after girls, because we're talking about the characteristics of the girls. And again, because there are 4 of these girls, we need to use the plural version, so we put the apostrophe after the S. So now let's have a look at just one sentence from Pride and Prejudice. Miss Bingley's attention was quite as much engaged in watching Mr. Darcy's progress through his book as in reading her own, and she was perpetually either making some inquiry or looking at his page. So here there are 2 apostrophes missing. The first one goes on Miss Bingley. Miss Bingley's attention, because we're talking about the attention of Miss Bingley. It's hers. It belongs to her. So we put the apostrophe before the S. And then we need another one on Mr. Darcy, because we're talking about his progress, the progress of Mr. Darcy that he's making through his book. So we have an S and an apostrophe between the S and Mr. Darcy's name. And finally, a couple of sentences from near the beginning of The Lord of the Rings. The eldest of these, and Bilbo's favourite, was young Frodo Baggins. When Bilbo was 99, he adopted Frodo as his heir and brought him to live at Bag End, and the hopes of the Sackville Bagginses were finally dashed. So how many apostrophes were missing here? The correct answer is 1. There is an apostrophe after Bilbo when we're talking about his favourite, because it's the favourite of Bilbo. So Bilbo's has an apostrophe between Bilbo and the S. There is no need for an apostrophe after Sackville Bagginses because although we are talking about possession, we've got the of to do that. So there is no need for an apostrophe here. So if you had any doubts or confusion about apostrophes, I hope some of that has been cleared up in this video. Next time you're reading a book or an article, keep an eye out for any apostrophes. Have a look at them and work out why are they there, what are they doing, what is their function, or are they used correctly or has the author made a mistake? So that's all for apostrophes for today. My next few videos are going to cover some other quirks of language, as well as a little bit of my own work as well. So thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, happy reading and happy writing.